Welcome to Working for Women, the Independent Women's Forum podcast, where we are changing the conversation about women and public policy for the better.
Hi, I'm Hadley Heath Manning, and I'm Director of Policy for Independent Women's Forum and your host for today's Working for Women podcast. Today, I'm joined by Carrie Lucas. She's our president at IWF, and we're really excited to talk about this topic today. We're going to talk about paid family leave. It's something near and dear to our hearts at Independent Women's Forum, and Carrie's here to tell me about an important update. So thanks for joining me today, Carrie.
Yeah, Hadley, thanks for having me.
So Senator Marco Rubio just dropped an important bill, and it relates to this topic, and it relates specifically to something we've been covering a lot at Independent Women's Forum, and that is the idea of Social Security parental leave. Can you tell me a little bit about this concept, especially for our listeners who might be new to the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's interesting because I feel like this is something we've been talking a lot about IWF, but at IWF. But this really is a very new concept. The Independent Women's Forum published a paper in January written by our fellow, Kristen Shapiro, and that was really the first time that this idea had been introduced in the public debate. And it was really a new approach to the problem of paid family leave and how to expand access to paid family leave. So it's it's really important for people to get the background. What Kristen had suggested was that instead of creating a whole new entitlement program to try to deliver paid family leave to those who need it, that instead we try to do better with the entitlement programs we already have. And in particular, she said, let's look at Social Security, which is a program that people start paying into on their very first day of work. And so the idea behind Social Security today is that you're going to pay in throughout your working life and then start collecting benefits at retirement at age 67. But Kristen said, gosh, a lot of people really need help much more, in their 20s and 30s when they have a baby and are more financially vulnerable. And I think we should give them the option of taking some of their benefits now in exchange for delaying them later. And kind of the central premise is that this isn't meant to expand a program. There's already benefits out there. Your benefits have a value. And so it's allowing people, workers, to have some freedom in deciding when they need their benefits more and giving them the option to access a share of those benefits a little earlier in life. So that's what that was the idea that IWF had published. And then we were really excited when Senator Rubio, who really liked it and has been working on legislation and to try to turn this into an actual a bill that could be introduced and considered by Congress. And that happened just this month. We had Senator Rubio has submitted legislation in the Senate. And so that's moving this important concept forward.
Yeah, it's a really innovative and creative way to tackle this problem. I've really enjoyed learning about it at IWF and advocating for it. So what makes Senator Rubio's bill in particular different? What are some of the details of that plan? And also tell us, Carrie, why this step of getting this into legislation is so important.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is that as I mentioned, as we've been talking about, this is a really new idea. And so one of the important things when a new idea is coming out is that you start kind of thinking it through more clearly and thinking through, well, how will this work in practice? Because a lot of times an idea sounds good, but you haven't thought through how it's going to, is it feasible? How would it work? What's the kind of administration that would need it to happen? And think through different scenarios. And so Senator Rubio has been doing a lot of the hard work of kind of figuring out how this could work and how to make this actually compatible with our current Social Security system and with the bureaucracy that would have to make sure that payments go to the right people and not the wrong people, and make sure that the trade-off that this core concept of the exchange between if you take leave now, you're going to be deferring benefits later, to make sure that's a fair trade. And so it's just really important that this concept is now being turned into kind of reality, or being turned into something solid. And it's been interesting. I was very interested to see how the senator moved forward on things, including on that central trade-off idea. At IWF, we've been talking to people about their analysis and estimates of what that trade-off would have to be. At first, we thought it would only have to be about 6 weeks, which we published in the 6 weeks for 12 weeks. So it would be, you would have to give up less retirement than for your parental leave. But then actually, as people were crunching out the numbers, as people learned more about this, the estimate went up. And thought, okay, it's probably closer to a 1-for-1. So if you take 1 week of parental leave, you'll need to give up 1 week of retirement. And what Senator Rubio has chosen to do is basically to recognize that we don't quite know yet, and that a lot of times we're going to have to make sure that this is a work in progress to make sure it's fair to parents, but also the parents who take the leave, but also fair to everybody who doesn't. And so he has talked about making it, or in this legislation, he puts it in the hands of the actuaries, the guys who are most involved in the numbers, to each year come up with an estimate so that parents will, can have an estimate of how long they would have to, what the offset would be, but then not putting it in stone so that if we need to make amendments later, or it needs to be revised later, that's something that could be done as a part of the system. So I thought that was really an innovative way to do this, and that's the kind of thing that's happening now as this is being more vetted.
Yeah, I think that's really important to be fiscally responsible. I know that's something we care about at Independent Women's Forum, that in order to keep our government limited, this proposal about paid family leave, we really want it to be budget neutral over the long run. So I appreciate Senator Rubio's concern in that vein as well. Now, Carrie, there's a lot going on at home in the United States. It's an election year. People are often talking about changes in the economy, which, some of those things are exciting and important. People are looking abroad at international affairs, that are considering our position in some trade deals. And, this is all important stuff. So is the issue of paid family leave something that's really important to people? And do you think people care about this? Do you think Congress cares about this? Why should we care about this?
Yeah, it's interesting because this is one of those that doesn't have kind of the urgency of some of the other issues that are in front of Congress. But I do hope that they give it a lot of attention. Right now there is, it's interesting when you look at everything that government does, and you and I have talked a lot, and we write a lot at IWF about how government being too big already and trying to do too much. But there is this kind of interest or a problematic hole in the safety net where a lot of people who really could use support after having a baby are falling through the cracks and are ending up on other forms of public assistance. So taxpayers are often ending up helping people who needed paid leave, but doing it through other programs. So I think that this is a way that you really could take a real rationalization of our safety net, really help some people who need it and need help today. Moms who are having our babies. It seems like it's a very it's an urgent problem for them today. So I would hope that it would be something that our lawmakers would also prioritize. But again, this isn't always. I think sometimes I'm bothered that every time we talk about this, we kind of focus like, oh, I'm the mom with the baby, and not such a sympathetic person. But I actually think it's just as important, and I'm just as worried if this isn't just about parents. This is also about non-parents, because of course we want the child brought into the world to be able to have the nurturing that he or she needs, but we also want to make sure that it's a system that's fair to everybody else. And I think that importantly, this system would be fair. It's not just a new handout to the sympathetic group of new parents. This is something that asks people to have a trade-off, to say, okay, we really want you to have support when you need it, but you can't just always turn to government for more and more support. So we're asking you to make a sacrifice, and that's saying you can have your support now, but you're going to have to delay your access to something else later. So I do think that this is not just good for parents. This is also good for taxpayers, good for other workers, and good for the economy as a whole. So I hope that it can get garner a little bit of attention, and we can move this conversation forward, because I really think this could be something that helps a whole lot of people without growing government, and that would be a win for everybody.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I know you know this, Carrie, but I just came back from a maternity leave, and we have several people at Independent Women's Forum who are sort of in that part of life where we're having kids and growing our families. And it is really tough to welcome a new baby to your family. It's such a great joy,
Sure.
but it's a very critical time for families. And I feel fortunate that I have an offer of, paid family leave as a benefit at work, and more American parents are in that position because as our economy continues to grow, employers are able to offer those benefits that people care about. And the thing that I love about our proposal is that really of all the plans to expand paid family leave, ours would interfere with those private options the least, because you're right, it is something of value, those Social Security benefits that we want to collect upon our retirement age, that workers would have to trade in order to get Social Security parental leave. So if people want to learn more about our plan, I encourage them to visit our website, iwf.org. There is a policy focus available online that is called a budget neutral solution to paid family leave. You can read it. We've got lots of articles on this topic as well. You can learn how our plan compares again to some of those other ideas that are out there. We believe ours is the very best, and as Carrie said, could be a win for everyone. So visit Independent Women's Forum online. Please share this podcast with anyone you think is interested in the topic and would like to learn more about it. Thank you, Carrie, for being our guest today. I've been talking with Carrie Lucas. She's our president at Independent Women's Forum. I'm Hadley Heath Manning, director of policy, and we appreciate you tuning in for yet another edition of our Working for Women podcast.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please give it a thumbs up, share it on social media, or stop by iwf.org for similar content.